Ernie Arno is the head coach of the North Adams-Jerome varsity baseball team. They're district champs again this year. Coach, congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the season. Obviously, a lot of wins during the SCAA year. What were a couple of the big moments for your team during the regular season?
Probably the biggest one was the sweep of Pittsford to put us in line for our divisional championship.
So you won the SCAA side that you were in. You go on into the district tournament. Who did you draw in the districts, and how did you make it through it?
Well, we drew the pre-district game with Reading. We beat Reading 6-5 on a squeeze play in the bottom of the 7th.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were saying as well.
You know, the thing about Reading, I know they were down a little bit this year, but that's a baseball school. I mean, and just like North Adams over the years has been a baseball school. When I saw that matchup, I expected a pretty good game, and boy, was it ever, huh?
When I saw that matchup, that game scared me immensely, actually. I knew, talking to Coach Affolter over there, they were young and kind of inexperienced at the beginning of the season, and I knew at the end that they would be tough to deal with.
Mm-hmm. So did you ordered up the squeeze, and they executed it?
Yes.
So take me inside that decision. What were you thinking?
Actually, had Joey was hitting with the bases loaded with one out. He hits in the 4-hole, so I thought we'll give him an opportunity to give a sacrifice fly. He popped it up behind the catcher, and I thought to myself, that's enough. We're going to squeeze and try to get this done and over with now. And he got it down, and we ended up scoring.
Now, I happen to know that we don't have a lot of listeners in Adrian, or the Britain area. So we can talk about this right now, and they're not going to find out. Is that something that you practice a lot? Is that something that on a weekly basis you guys go over?
We do go over, the bunting aspect of it quite a bit. Probably in the last couple of years we've gone over it quite a bit more than in the first part of my career. Chris actually brought that more from the softball side of things, the small ball, to the program.
So you guys win that pre-district, obviously in dramatic fashion. It's kind of a weird situation. You've won a pre-district. You haven't won the district championship, and yet it feels like a huge win at the time, doesn't it?
Oh, immense win.
Yeah.
Anytime you can beat a team for, the caliber that Reading does bring to the field, it's always a nice thing.
So you go on to your district. You faced in the first game
Jackson
Christian, who they've struggled a lot this year. Now, you made the decision not to go with Chris in the first game. You knew you could get that win and save Chris for Camden, right?
Well, during the course of this year, sometimes you make decisions based on how people pitch against both teams that you have to play. Right. I can't say, with these two, they've been a 1 and a 1A for almost 4 years anyways. I mean, Joey threw a one-hit shutout, so I wouldn't really call that throwing off when you throw that kind of a ball game against anybody.
When people hear, you read the paper, Chris Thompson's throwing perfect games and that sort of thing, in your mind you kind of think that way, but when you really look at the statistics, they've both been a number one for you.
Yes, they really have. They both have thrown well. We've had a pretty good two-headed monster for 3.5 years.
Do they get along, or is there a lot of rivalry and conflict there?
Honestly, depends on the day, I believe. For the most part, I
Joe
think
just took a swing at Chris over there, off to the side a little bit. I think he was joking, but I'm not 100% sure. No, but it's a good problem to have, right?
Yes, it is.
A couple of good starters at the top of the rotation, so you make it through the Jackson Christian game, no sweat. That Camden game was weird. I mean, I came over from the softball game where my Lady Redskins won a district, and were very fortunate to beat North Adams in a great game, and then went on to beat Pittsford. Got over there in time to see you guys were up, I think, 4-1 at the time. Chris got Camden out 1-2-3. I don't remember what inning it was. I get a text about 20 minutes later because my kid had a game that it was tied, and I was shocked. And then I see the score is 10-4. So those are two weird texts to get one after the other. What happened in that game?
Well, we ended up we had runners on second and third, one out. We intentionally walked Alex Dahlstrom. The next hitter hit a shot to center field. We had a miscue out. It would have scored a run. But a miscue, and all three runners scored, so it went from 4-1 to 4-4 and in a big hurry. So.
And then you scored 6 times.
Then we scored 10 times. We ended up beating them 14-4.
Oh, it was 14-4.
Yeah, it was 14-4 to finish. So we needed one run in the bottom, and and to work on Chris coming back to finish, and we scored 10. So
that's a comfortable inning when you can put a 10 spot up. And
yes, very much so.
It's so interesting the strategy that you have to use because Coach Hallebeck basically had Alec Dahlstrom.
Yep.
And beyond that, the pitching was a little bit thin.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a certain number of innings that you can throw in the tournament, and Dahlstrom was up.
Yep.
And when he had to go to Blaine Dotson, Blaine's a good young kid. I think he's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But he struggled a little bit. They were struggling a little bit with Calvin. That all goes into your mind, and when you don't have two number ones like you do, that's where there can be a lot of pressure, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much so.
And you pulled it out. You won a district championship.
We did.
That's a great feeling to go with your league title. Looking forward to Saturday. Britton Deerfield has had some excellent baseball teams over the years. You're going to go to Hudson to play them. What do you know about this year's team from BD?
All that I've heard is they're a very solid ball club. They have their ups and downs, kind of like we do. I'm hearing they're a lot like us, is what I'm hearing. They have a righty and a lefty as their 1 and 2 that are pretty good players. So we'll see when we get there.
You have a regional game at noon on Saturday at Hudson. Now, if you did win, would you play again that day?
Yes, 3:30.
So potentially for North Adams fans, 2 games in Hudson. But obviously, as Joe told me a minute ago, we only worry about 1 game at a time.
Yes, sir.
And we're laser focused on BD. Mr. Voisin, come on up here for a second. I love this guy. When I student taught at North Adams, he was my boss. He was a good boss. Now he's so involved over at North Adams with a million different things. I don't know how many hats you have, but you wear a lot of them. Baseball coach, it's been fun with George, obviously. He's graduating. You going to keep doing it?
Yes. I have our third baseman is my middle son.
Oh, perfect.
And we have our 7th grader who is kind of our manager.
Mm-hmm.
And throw in catcher last night to get us through a practice, so he helped catch. So I have a 7th grader coming up and a sophomore.
Is your middle son a pilot?
No, he is not.
Not yet? Okay.
No.
George is a pilot, and he's a really good pilot and a pretty darn good ball player. You bring a lot of thought into the game. We talked about this last year. I don't want to do the same interview again, but what have been some keys to the season this year? What have you liked about this team?
Like the hustle, like the go-get attitude. And when we had to play small ball, we can play small ball, which is, I think, a lot of high school teams don't ever prepare for. And when we were playing Climax Scots, their coach, when he was walking across, which was their AD that night, and he says, "Hey, I thought you just played with the big ball." I said, "I don't have any daughters." I said, "So we play with the small balls now." And so I says, "But you're going to see some softball too."
Right.
Some strategies.
What about that? Obviously, softball, a little bit of a different game. What have you incorporated specifically for your team?
The speed. Trying to speed up the game. And to take some of the that advantage that other teams, baseball tends to be more of a laid-back sport, and it's a gentleman's sport. And softball game is fast-paced, in-your-face type, especially fast-pitch softball.
The softball that I see, I mean, you've got the third baseman 10 feet away from the plate. The girls are wearing the cages over their faces and all the rest of it. And it is a different sport. It's a fun sport to watch. For baseball, I think you're right. A lot of teams are like, let's get a bloop and a blast. Let's get a guy on and then try to, crush one over the fence. And not every team's built that way, right?
Correct. And we don't have monster power hitters. We have a lot of base hitters. We get squeeze in some two-baggers.
Your players are disagreeing with your with your assessment that you don't have monster
power
hitters.
I think if we looked at the stats, Coach.
Look at the baseball field, too.
Look at the baseball field, and also they changed the game when they changed the bats a few years ago.
Yes.
I mean, the power is still there, but it's not like it used to be.
Correct. That ball does not fly off. And my son, who plays third base, when we were preparing for Hudson, we said, you got to play in because they're going to bunt. And I moved him in, and he says, "Dad, that's awful close." And then I took the arc of where the pitcher's mound was, because he'll pitch for us. And I said, see, you're still behind where the pitcher's mound is.
You're further away.
Yes.
Right.
So you can take a step up, and then you'd be where the pitchers are.
If I'm doing that against a right-handed hitter, I'm wanting to walk back too. So I can kind of understand where he's coming from a little bit. Mr. Voisin, can you tell us who you guys brought with you tonight?
Sure. We brought Chris Thompson. We brought Jake Hart. We brought my son George. And we brought Joey Crosby.
Front row Joe? George, come on up here real quick. I know George pretty well, so I'm just going to start with him, and we'll see if we get to these other guys. Obviously, your senior year, you got to be proud of what you guys have accomplished.
Yes, I'm very proud of what, as a team, we have been able to accomplish.
Coming into the year, did you think this team had a couple of championships in it, or were you not so sure coming in?
I was very confident in what we had coming back with Chris and Joey, and even though losing Eric and Cray from last year, I knew we could get some other players and just move a couple people around, and I figured that it would we'd still be good.
So where have the coaches put you this year?
Now I'm playing second base.
George Voisin over at second. Your brother's over at third. Has that been fun?
Yeah, I enjoy it.
You get on him a little bit, or is he able to kind of hang with you guys?
He's pretty good at hanging with us, and I tease him every once in a while, but I hope it doesn't bother him too much.
Your brothers. Now, when you guys have to go play like Climax Scots, do you fly the team over?
No, I don't. School doesn't let me.
They don't, huh? That's interesting. You are, I would imagine now, a fully licensed pilot, right?
No, I'm still working on getting my license.
How young can you be and be a fully licensed pilot?
I believe it is 16.
So get with it, man. Let's go. Jeez, you're probably almost 18, right?
I am 18 now.
Okay, it's time to get your life together here, George. You're not a fully licensed pilot? No,
yet.
But you've flown in a million different situations and have gone through a lot of the training.
Yep.
I want to bring Chris Thompson in because we've read a lot about him. I wanted to get an interview with him. You threw a perfect game earlier in the year, correct?
Yes.
So a perfect game means basically nobody reaches base unless it was an error, right?
No hits, no walks.
No hits, no walks.
No errors.
How far along into the game was it before you started thinking about the perfect game?
Never really thought about it. Like, I don't know, they hit the ball a lot and just thought they made a mistake somewhere, you know.
So you didn't even know, did you know that you had a perfect game?
Not the first one, no.
You threw multiple perfect games this year.
Threw two.
That's not bad. 2 perfect games. See, if it were me, if it got to about the third inning, I'd start thinking about it, and then I'd walk somebody. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you, especially the walking part? You might give up a hit here or there, but if you're on and striking guys out, how do you not even walk one guy during the course of a game?
Feels on. Just how you throw, I guess.
You can't hit a guy.
No, that's the hard part.
You can't hit a guy. You can't send a message. You can't go high and in. Chris Thompson's thrown multiple perfect games. You go to that district game. Camden touched you up for a 3-run inning, a team that you had no hit earlier on in the year. What was different, and how were you able to sort of recapture the magic after that inning?
They got all their guys back and hit the ball and just had to rely on your defense, I guess.
Joe, come on up here real quick. Joe Crosby is the 1A, the 1B, sort of the other starting pitcher. You had to take care of business in the first district game. Were you nervous going into that game?
I'm nervous for every game. Like I said, I just kind of play one game at a time, see how it unfolds.
So you go into a game and you're feeling kind of the butterflies or whatever. A couple pitches in, do you kind of settle down and relax?
Yeah, once I get into my rhythm, it just all kind of flows.
We asked earlier if you guys got along, you and Chris, and you kind of were joking around and punching each other over there. But, when you have 2 excellent pitchers like that, somebody's got to be the guy that is the guy in the biggest moment. How do you guys kind of work with that, and how has that evolved over the year?
Well, we just kind of both pitch separate games, and whoever's throwing the more strikes that day usually the better pitcher that day.
How have you done at the plate this year, Joe?
Hitting?
Yeah.
Better than I did last year. That's for sure.
So I take it last year wasn't great.
No.
Okay. All right, just making sure. Jake Hart, come on up. Jake Hart's over there making a lot of gestures and whatnot. He's got his Michigan State shirt on and all the rest of it. Jake, where have you been playing this year?
I was moved over to first base this year.
So you've got, a sophomore at third?
Sophomore at third.
So you've got a young third baseman over there at third. He's got to make that toss across all the time. How has he done?
Well, he started off at the beginning of the year scaring me, and he's worked on it, and he's really come along, and he's getting that throw. I'm not worried anymore. He gets it there every time.
Good. And plenty of power, enough to get it over there anyway.
Just enough.
Just enough. Nip those guys out. You're related to Luke Hart?
Yep.
Luke was a spectacular North Adams-Jerome player in a lot of different sports. Did you watch him and learn anything from him when he played?
Well, I just learned to never quit, never get down, and never throw the game away, and not let my composure show on the field.
Isn't that a big part of it in baseball? I mean, I talk to my son about this all the time. He starts walking guys, and he gets really frustrated. And, how do you manage that part of the game? You get a couple of outs, you make a mistake. Moving on to the next play and kind of letting that go can be tough for some guys, can't it?
Yeah, and especially in baseball, you have to have a really short memory. Coach Arno and Coach Mr. Boyson tells us all the time we have to have a short memory, forget about it, and make up for it the next time you can.
You like playing over there at first?
It's got its moments. It's a lot different than third, in my opinion. These guys always say if you can play one corner, you can play the other, but I don't buy it. But I've learned to like it over the year.
The good thing about first base, I always felt like, was you were involved all the time.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. You're involved every play, but I'm just.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Coach Arno, before we run out of time here, and we do have to meet the network in just a second, your team battles Britton Deerfield at Hudson, high noon on Saturday. We mentioned this and hit it on it a minute ago, but what do you think the key to that game is going to be going into your regional game on Saturday?
Just don't make mistakes.
Right.
Make basic plays, pick up the ball, throw strikes, and you give yourself an opportunity to win.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you up there on Saturday.